The Successful Delivery Toolkit is the government's set of best practice principles, a common sense approach to running major projects based upon experience and applying common sense rules. Take the new Treasury GOGS building, for example. Like other departments, the Treasury rarely gets involved in something of this size. This is their first big refurbishment for 90 years. That's where the best practice rules come in, and application of these has enabled customer and contractor to come in on time and to budget.
There are many places in the public sector where you find yourself responsible for a project that you will have never encountered before and for many years will never encounter again. One alternative is simply to try and learn as you go along, but you make mistakes. The alternative is to use this best practice material in the toolkit, and you get access to proven principles that other people have worked through. You learn from their mistakes, and you can accelerate your progress up the learning curve. And that's what we have done with this project. We couldn't have done it as a project which is, as I say, a once in a lifetime project, without access to that kind of guidance.
So what is the toolkit? Presented in electronic form for the first time, it is an evolving set of best practice rules, a benchmark to which departments can turn, feedback experience, and share their own best practice, creating a sense of common ownership and working together. The toolkit is a step-by-step guide covering the essential principles of good practice in the wider context of procurement and commercial relations, including strategic management, service management, and performance. It provides a route map to detailed sources of advice and guidance, and it can be easily customized within departments' own standards.
It's important to appreciate that this product, like all OGC's products, has been developed as a result of very, very close cooperation with a number of departments. It has not been developed by some ivory tower function in the centre of government with no appreciation for the realities of life that actually goes on at the coalface of projects. And it's against that background that I very much hope that all departments will embrace the Successful Delivery Toolkit, recognising that it provides for the first time a real breakthrough in providing ease of access to this huge body of accumulated wisdom and experience that is reflected in our best practice and in all our operational advice and guidance documentation, so that we have made it much easier for departments to embrace it and adopt it on a consistent basis on each and every project that they undertake in the future. And it's in that spirit that I very hope it will be welcomed by departments as an important contribution to the government's successful delivery agenda.
The toolkit is a set of best practice rules for a project's whole life cycle, and it also fits perfectly with the Gateway review process. Gateway review teams look for evidence of good practice during their evaluations. At the Home Office, the overhaul of the National Probation Service, reviewed by Gateway teams, was a project with ambitious timescales and limited resources. Success has been achieved by following best practice with clearly defined roles and responsibilities and a common understanding of what should be delivered.
The whole thing does fit together. I mean, again, for instance, obviously before Gateway reviewers arrive, we send them a whole package of documents so they can see where we're at and start studying it, so they can come and talk to us from an informed position. And again, if they know what they're looking for, if we present them with a form they're used to, a format they're used to, it saves a lot of their effort. They can focus on the key issues, what the real questions are. They can identify where they have some concerns, shall we say. Whereas if it's a completely new sort of form, it's a completely new type of project structure, they'd have difficulty, I think, in focusing on the real nub of the issues. So the whole thing really fits together, I think. If there's a standard way of doing things, a standard language, standard forms, guidance we're all used to, then it makes everybody's job easier.
The National Audit Office, working with OGC, needs to ensure that best practice principles used throughout a project's life cycle are consistent with the requirements of the effectiveness audit at the end. And the NAO are keen to emphasise that best practice helps departments to work together in innovative ways.
We at the National Audit Office very much support innovation and risk-taking, but we're talking about well-managed risk-taking. In a report that we produced on successfully managing risks, we pointed out some of the high points, some of the high questions which senior management need to ask themselves to manage those risks. And by working with the OGC, we've managed to embed some of the good practice that have come out of our reports in their guidance, and most importantly, in this toolkit for successful delivery.
At the heart of government, the Office of Public Services Reform was set up by the Prime Minister to improve the delivery of public services. This means senior management involvement in project delivery and use of best practice by policymakers and delivery teams.
Yes, I think some of the impact we should see of the toolkit around government is some of the language where senior people are beginning to understand how to hold to account complex projects, maybe projects working across departments or across different directorates within departments. Those are the challenging areas of working that project management should help. So success would be, where we recognize the currency of the language of project management, and we see in practice the sort of tight timescales and detailed planning that's associated with it. I think the real challenge, though, is to make sure we don't add to the red tape, and what this toolkit's trying to do, I think, is show people that there are some basic principles, some basic frameworks which will be useful, but we should scale them to be appropriate to the task at hand.
One huge public service area where best practice will have a major impact is the health service, where procurement practice is being standardised and projects subject to gateway reviews. And elsewhere within government, the DWP, which has 23 million customers and delivers £100 billion worth of benefits, is engaged in a huge overhaul of its whole service provision. DWP is working with OGC to develop best practice principles for the benefit of everyone in the public sector.
We've simply got to adopt best practice. It's a must for us. In order to meet the expectations that ministers have set for us, we're going to have to perform at top pitch. And so the first thing we must do is adopt best practice. I mean, I'd like to feel we'd go beyond that and invent some best practice ourselves, push the boundary out. But the first step is to look for best practice and apply it ourselves.
The toolkit doesn't stand still. It's a constantly evolving set of benchmarks which will continue to be improved as its users feed back their own individual experiences and needs.
I think that's very important to recognise that we're identifying common principles, common practices, what needs to be done, but the how will vary according to the individual department's objectives and individual project needs as well. So we need to provide something that is easily customisable in order to support that need.
The OGC provides practical support to help you adopt the toolkit in your organisation's standards and procedures. Increasingly, departments, the wider public sector and industry are working with OGC to make sure the toolkit reflects best practice. Your involvement is crucial to the success of this initiative, which has solid support from both inside and outside government. The challenge is to develop a set of rules and guidelines which everyone can benefit from. For the first time, the toolkit provides the foundations upon which any project, large or small, can achieve success.